study. So what I'd just ask is if you could just make sure your mics are on are muted throughout, probably videos off as well, and then if you've got questions throughout the session, probably best to put those in the chat function in Microsoft Teams, and then I will address them towards the end of the presentation. So I think that's all the key information. So as I said, welcome to the talk. There's my contact details at the bottom of that slide. I'm happy to follow up with further contact following today's event as well. So please take that information. So how this works. So today really this is I guess some information on the DProf program. A few things we'd like to get through. So I'm just going to provide a bit of an introduction to the Carnegie School of Sport and Leeds Beckett University, and then I guess our philosophy at the university in relation to research and practice, which will then lead us on to what is a professional doctorate and why a professional doctorate is important for us within the Carnegie School of Sport. We'll then provide some more specific, I guess, information on our program in relation to its purpose and its aims, and then also how the program is delivered and how that is made up. So that will be most of the information from myself. We've then been joined by a current student on the program who started in the cohort back in 2019. So he's about 18 months into their DProf journey, and that is Owen Mooney from Dublin GAA. And Owen will provide a bit of information on his program of research and his initial reflections on the program. We then also have some information from the graduate school who coordinate our research degrees here at Leeds Beckett, and then, as I said, opportunity for some question and answer at the end. I know people will be dropping in and out. That does remind me, I did forget to start the recording.
I've started the recording, Kevin, so I'm recording on my end.
Cheers, Owen. Lifesaver. Thank you. Okay. So that's the plan for today. Hopefully that will be really useful. So the first thing, just a bit of an introduction for those that aren't aware. So Leeds Beckett University is a university in Headingley in Leeds. I've been a student here, undergrad, masters, and PhD at the university, and then a member of staff. So I've been at the university approaching 20 years now. And within Leeds Beckett University, we've got 11 what are called schools, and one of those schools is the Carnegie School of Sport. So that is where my work is housed, and I guess within that we have a range of undergraduate, and postgraduate courses across a range of subjects as you're aware of. And this is where we also house some of our level 8 studies, so PhDs and the Prof Doc program. As you can see, the picture in the top left is the James Graham building. I think this building, this is a very old building. It's been there since the university was established and is a sort of the centre of our campus in Headingley. But we also have the picture in the bottom right, which is our new Carnegie School of Sport building, which was opened back in September 2020. A marvellous facility. I guess due to COVID restrictions, the building's not being used to its capacity at the minute. But really, it's a great home for the Carnegie School of Sport and for the delivery of our teaching and our programs and our research in relation to the research programs that we do. So, in terms of facilities, a £45 million building that's going to be a vital for everyone within the program. The other thing to mention here is we also have another school is what's called the graduate school, and they are the ones that administer the research degrees across the university. So they're responsible for research degrees in each of the school, and I guess the DProf program really sits within our Carnegie School of Sport, but then also the graduate school at the university, and that's why there'll be a little bit of talk on those later. from the graduate school later. So within the Carnegie School of Sport, as I mentioned, there's a range of different undergrad and postgraduate courses. We then have 6 what are called research centres, which are really the wrappers for our major focuses of research and enterprise and knowledge exchange activity that happens within the school. And what you can see, some of these have been established for a number of years in terms of centres, and some of them have been developed recently and launched over the last 1 to 2 years. And so the 6 centres are Research Centre for Sports Coaching, Research Centre for Human Performance, which includes work around anti-doping, extreme environments. Within there, we have our Research Centre for Applied Rugby Research, which I'm a co-director of that specific centre. A Research Centre for Active Lifestyles, Research Centre for Social Justice in Sport and Society, and lastly the Research Centre for Applied Obesity. So you can see from these centres that we cover lots of different areas from within sport, from physical activity and applied obesity to the work within rugby and sports coaching and sports science. So we're pretty confident that while we have real specific areas of strength, that actually a lot of people's interests and work would fit into one of these centres, and that would be sort of where, depending on your projects and your interests and your roles, would be where your DProf is situated as well. And you can find out more information on these centres on the Leeds Beckett website. And really, just to make you aware, this statement is really our Carnegie School of Sport sort of mission statement. It's to ensure we use our knowledge and resources to make a positive and decisive difference to people, communities and organisations. So we're really here around making a difference, making a positive difference and helping people, the communities and organisations. And I guess we can do that through our teaching and the research activities that we do. But yeah, our philosophy is centred on using our knowledge and our skills and our resources to help people ultimately. So that is where I guess our philosophy comes in. I guess from Carnegie School of Sport is very much around applied research that makes a difference. And this is a slide, you may have seen similar slides in the past, but I guess why traditionally research and practice could be seen as standalone entities. We have the scientific research there on the left and science, that, but then on the right we've got the practice. And as I said, they can be seen as standalone areas that sometimes there's limited connection within those areas. But our philosophy to achieve that mission is very much around bridging that gap between research and practice. And that's related to, I guess, again, a lot of the work that we do across all our programs is that we're trying to ultimately bridge that gap. So, research and science is influencing the day-to-day practices of many individuals that allows us to make a difference. So I think that's really important to understand that that's our philosophy. It's not research for research's sake. It's around making a difference to people and really bridging that gap between the two. So leading on to that, that's why I guess for us a professional doctorate program was really important when we started designing this program. Because it was something that we didn't offer. Other institutions, I've offered a professional doctorate for a number of years, but related to our philosophy, I think a professional doctorate is essential to that idea around bridging the gap. So this is just, this is really what a professional doctorate is, a program of advanced study and research, which satisfies university criteria for the award of a doctorate, and it is designed to meet specific needs of a professional group or professional individuals external to the university, which develops the capability of individuals to work within a professional context. So it's very much around, it's level 8 study, it's equivalent to a PhD study, but the program has some distinct differences in that first there's a talk component to the program, which a PhD program doesn't necessarily have. And then very much this idea, it's around developing professional practice and professionals that work in industry and in practice, and really developing, I guess, academic and research skills that allow them to do their job to a better quality and allow them to develop as individuals. So it's around, as I said before, bridging that gap, and really that's what a professional doctorate is all about. So it comes back to this idea that we know that practitioners, all people in a range of roles, face problems in their practice, and therefore, but we also know that research can help provide solutions, enhance knowledge, develop skills that allows people to solve those problems. So we very much see that the DProf student is that person on that bridge. They're the person that is aiming to, alongside others, to bridge the gap between research and practice, and ultimately use research to solve their practical problems. So really the aim of our DProf program is to enhance the knowledge, skills and expertise of professionals like yourselves, working within sport to develop innovative, evidence-informed solutions to the problems they face. And really that's the overall what the program is aimed to do. It's to enhance your skills and knowledge and expertise to really allow you to do your job at a higher level, and really start to create evidence-informed, not evidence-based, evidence-informed solutions to the problems you face. And we know that a number of practitioners do this in their practice already. So it's also a way of recognising that originality and novelty that occurs in practice for people to be awarded a level 8 qualification. So I guess when that's the aim of the program, and these are the areas that the program runs across. So it is quite a broad professional doctorate program compared with some institutions that may be more specific in certain areas. Our program does cover all areas of sport, from sport and exercise science, coaching, sports development, business and marketing, physical education and physical activity and health. So it's very broad at the minute in its who we're targeting. At the minute, most of our students are probably within the sports coaching discipline, but we're very looking to broaden that as we move forward, because we actually feel that breadth of individuals in the room is a really good learning experience for everyone on the program, to understand different perspectives and ways of working to solving these problems. So just to break down those aims a little bit more, so this is based on the QAA framework in relation to a level 8 study. We have 5 specific program aims that you'd be expected to sort of demonstrate at the end of this journey. First one of those is evaluation of theoretical aspects of expertise that allows you to benchmark where you currently are and your future current aspirations. Secondly is to explore your current professional practices to identify those problems within your role. So really, we know practitioners face many problems, but to be able to undertake a research degree, there needs to be some focus, and that's something we're very keen, and a lot of the first 12 months is focused upon that. There needs to be a clear understanding of the research process to allow individuals to apply creative thinking to solve those problems, and how we can use data and insights to inform those problems. Communication skills is a key aspect, and that, with a requirement to develop and evidence those communication skills that allows the submission of work for publication. That doesn't necessarily mean academic publication, and it could mean academic publication, but it also could mean publication in a variety of different ways. But how do you communicate your work to therefore demonstrate that it's having an impact and providing a solution? And then the last one, which is really what Level 8 study is about, is around making this original contribution to the enhancement of professional practice within your field. So how has your work, how is it original, and how does it contribute to enhancing the field moving forward? So they're the aims, and that's how our program is designed when I come on to that. But this is really, I guess, a sort of schematic to evidence that journey. It's definitely not linear as it's shown on there, but you'd have a practical problem which you would apply with. You'd then undertake 3 learning units, one of those around understanding expertise related to your professional role, one of those in relation to sense making, the current challenges. You'd then undertake literature review and assessment of that, and then start to sort of, design a research question, which then sort of follows a traditional research process model of research design, data collection, data analysis, development of that practical solution, and then presentation and dissemination of that. But what we can see central to that figure is this idea around review and reflection. And probably when Owen speaks, the student, Owen will, I'm sure will identify that over that first 12 months, there's a lot of reflection that goes on and review of these ideas. And that is going to be apparent throughout the DProf journey, in that, it's not as simple as you come in with an idea and you design a study and get on with it. There's a lot of review and reflection and question around, is that the right idea? Is that the right question? What is my role? And how things develop over time. So that really, the review and reflection is essential to our program. So on to the program delivery. That's, I guess, an overview of the aims of the program and sort of some things. That picture just is one of our new lecture theatres in the new build. Really good space for community of practice, etc. But onto the program delivery. So we see this being approximately a 4-year program. That will differ for individuals depending on their circumstances slightly, and that program starts every October. So we just have one intake a year based on the talk component of the course. It's really split into 2 phases. Phase 1 is a talk component, which lasts 12 months. First 12 months, not years. Sorry, an error on my part there. And within that 12 months, you undertake 3 learning units. And those learning units are delivered. Initially, we had 4 3-day blocks was the plan, but because of COVID, etc., that has changed, and we do feel that has changed for the better. So the learning units will be a blended approach, including some 3-day blocks on campus and some online delivery. We do feel the face-to-face delivery is important in terms of establishing relationships between staff and students, but also between students, within students' peer-to-peer relationships. And again, something Owen may touch upon, but that is a real strength of the programme, is that you're with a cohort of students that are going through this together. Sometimes a PhD and a part-time PhD can be a lonely journey, but that's something, definitely a added benefit of the Prof Doc programme. So we have 3 units. The first one of those is led by Dr. Andy Abraham, titled Understanding Expertise in Professional Practice. This allows you to take, I guess, an in-depth look at your professional role and look at what expertise and a profession is, and then undertake a cognitive task analysis to be clear on what does your role entail and what are your strengths and weaknesses in relation to doing that role and becoming an expert, and therefore why is research an important aspect of that as well. The second unit is led by Dr. Bob Muir. It's sense making in professional practice. This unit explores your professional practice from different perspectives, is very much focused around that idea of reflection, like I mentioned before, and does this from a professional development perspective in terms of looking at your interactions on a day-to-day basis, but then also starting to unravel some of those bigger problems that you may be facing. So those 2 units are, we feel, are quite novel and something very specific to our programme. Really allow you to understand your role and the problems that you face and start to make sense of them, that then can lead into the research part of the project, which is then where the third unit comes in, which is the research process unit led by Dr. Julian North. This is probably a little bit more of a traditional unit. You may have done similar things at master's or undergrad level in terms of like research methods, but it's very much around how we're linking the first two units into the research project that you will do. and it's very much around getting a focus in terms of what the project is to allow you then to, I guess, do a literature review and develop a proposal and develop the skills that are required to undertake that. So that is our learning units briefly there. Just some further, so after the sort of the 12-month mark, you'd sort of go into phase 2, which is probably more of the independent journey. This is then supported by a minimum of 2 supervisors that would be relevant to your areas of inquiry. We see that this would take approximately 3 years, but as I said before, that could differ slightly between individuals. I guess along that, there's regular check-ins. We have a confirmation registration process and annual progressions where you'd be checking in with people outside your supervisory team to make sure sufficient progress is being made. And we also are going to be hosting an annual DProf conference each year, where this will be an opportunity for students across all cohorts to come together and present their progress and their work and their research, and really create that community of practice between students in relation to what that looks like. We haven't done that yet, again because of COVID, but we're hoping to run that this October. And then really, obviously, it is a long time between that sort of end of the talk component and the completion of the prof doc. But thinking 4 years down the line, what that submission and output looks like. There is a thesis submission, like all level 8 study, but we're also very keen to establish this idea of submission of a creative piece of work. Now, this creative piece of work could be of multiple different avenues: website, blogs, handbooks, videos, strategic documents, etc. Ultimately, it comes down to what your problem is that you're trying to solve, to what is the creative work that you would produce. We feel this is, again, quite novel aspect of our programme. It's probably not novel at PhD study in some other subjects, but really we want, back to that idea around bridging the gap, we want people to create original and novel contributions to professional practice, and this is a way of doing that in level 8 study. Along the way, academic dissemination would be valued, and that could include journal articles, conference presentations, etc. But again, that probably depends upon the journey that you're taking, the problems you're trying to face. And then really all those things would be examined in a Viva situation where you would have an external member to the university and an internal member of staff who would sort of interrogate your work over a 2 to 3 hour period to deem whether it is level 8 prof doc worthy work. So that's sort of the programme summarised, and hopefully really useful to get a flavour of what we're about. Before I sort of pass on to Owen, these are just, I guess, we have 23 students across our 2 cohorts at the minute. These are just some of the organisations which they're from, which you'll obviously recognise some of those. We do have some international students, including from Hungary, Canada and Dubai, alongside, I guess, some more familiar faces there from England and Ireland as well. Not forgetting Ireland, Owen's from Ireland. The FA, British Travel Home, British Swimming, etc. So there's current students. So I'm going to pass on to Owen now, and then we'll pass on to the graduate school, and then I'll be available to answer any questions at the end. So thank you.
Kevin, you just want to unshare your screen, and I'll share mine, just so that, because that request control didn't happen earlier on. Good man. You can see that okay now?
Yeah, I can see that. Cool. Thank you.
All right, folks, I'm going to start my timer because Kevin has me under strict instructions. So thanks, Kevin, for the opportunity to share my journey so far, and for everybody for jumping on today's open day. It's great to see so many familiar names. Well, there's a couple of names that I recognise also. So I've been fortunate to have spent most of my professional career working within the areas of coaching, coach development, coach education as well as volunteer development because of the nature of Gaelic games in Ireland. But I've also worked in the United States also. And currently I am Learning and Games Development Coordinator for Dublin GA, and I'm also host of the iCodes Kids podcast, as you can see above my shoulder, which is one of my project outputs for my research that Kevin touched on a little bit earlier on. So I guess my why for enrolling on the DocProf was that I always wanted to study at doctoral level, and before moving back to Ireland, I came across the DocProf in sport qualification in Leeds Beckett, and the seed was planted. So when I became aware of it, I looked into the course. I asked questions of friends who were studying for their own professional doctorates to get their advice. And after all of that, I set up a call with Kevin and Dr. Sergio Larbercial before I left New York in May 2019, I think it was, Kev, to discuss my options, get their feedback on a research proposal, and basically to start my DocProf journey. Undertaking the doctorate gave me a focus and a goal kind of to work towards because I didn't have a job on my return to Ireland. So it was something that I could get my teeth into before I secured another post. So studying part-time kind of alongside my current role now with Dublin GA has been very influential, as Kevin touched on earlier on, because my employers see how mutually beneficial it is for me, but also for them because of the nature of the DocProf. And what sets Leeds Beckett apart from other institutions who offer kind of the DocProf kind of experience is, again, as Kevin touched on, is the diverse and broad range of research areas within the student cohort. And because of those differences, we're able to challenge each other, learn from each other, but also support each other. And in relation to my own context, that's been invaluable to me. The title of my research is Playing Sport, Understanding the Role of Play for Children and Coaches. And again, the broadening and narrowing of my ideas, there was a lot of chopping and changing between titles because of the nature of the DocProf and because of those reflections and sense making that I went through. And from the initial issue that I identified for my research for the DocProf was that it was always going to be on coaching and play, but I've always been curious, always asking why. I'm a little like Mindy from Animaniacs that you'll see on your screen. And because of that curiosity, and because I love to coach through the medium of play, my experiences kind of provoked a feeling that there was a gap in the research in relation to play when it comes to coaching children within the context of sport. So there's endless literature on play, from play theory, occupational therapy, behavioral psychology, occupational therapy, as well as, of course, early years and primary education, learning through play. And trying to keep focused within a huge, broad area has been a massive challenge for me. And there's been many times when I have felt like Homer. However, this challenge is the beauty of the DocProf, because I'm always learning and improving. The more I am like Winnie and Piglet through my reading, the more writing I do and the more feedback I get from my critical friends, our student cohort, but especially my fantastic supervisors, Dr. Sergio Larbercial and Dr. Nikki Clark, the more clarity I have myself. And again, the broadening and narrowing of ideas have been hugely beneficial for me. However, it's a constant challenge. And even though I'm in the second year of my journey, as you can see from the picture on your screen in terms of the research progress, I'm thoroughly enjoying it still. The taught units of the DocProf during phase one that Kevin touched on, they're looked after by Andy, Bob and Jay and overseen by Kevin, were so enjoyable. And it's because of that structure, preparation and support within the Carnegie School of Sport that I don't think I'll ever feel like the fella that you see on your screen in the remaining years of my DocProf. And Kevin, I'm sure, will hopefully not be thinking that that's going to happen also. So just to finish off, folks, you'll learn so much about your own area of study, which will have a positive impact not only on your professional practice, but my experience of the DocProf have had a huge impact on every aspect of my life. The reflections and sense making that Bob does has linked into my home life and how I my relationships and my connections, and I feel I'm very fortunate to be part of the Leeds Beckett community, student community, and I'm looking forward to getting back to Headingley, as Kevin touched on, very soon when we're able to. So everybody on the call here, be like Rapunzel, take a chance, venture outside your comfort zone, and finally, be like Merlin, have a go. If you don't try, you'll never know. Thanks everyone for listening, and Kevin for the opportunity, and I look forward to any questions.
Thank you, Owen. Very nicely put. So Owen will stick about and be able to answer any questions as well at the end, but thank you for that summary, Owen. Excellent. I'll share my screen again. Can you see that one, Joanne?
Yeah, I can. Thank you very much, Kevin. Yeah, would we be able to go on to the next slide, please? I suppose that's, yeah. So thanks, Kevin, and thanks, Owen. That was wonderful. I'm just going to say a little bit about the graduate school and also give the university view. So not only are students who choose to do a professional doctorate, the DProf Sport, joining sort of a fantastic school, fantastic community there. There's also lots of support and other things much wider around the university as well. So the graduate school is a centralised service, and we work across the whole university, and we're responsible for the quality and governance and administration of research degrees, and we're responsible for the research student training programme as well, which we'll say a little bit more on in a moment. So if we could just go back to the previous slide, Kevin, thanks. So this is the team as it is. I'm Joanne Burgess, I'm the manager. I apologise, I don't have a working camera today. And the team is, the team structure is laid out there. We have somebody who does student support, so they arrange training sessions, which if you are and if you are sort of applying and enrolled on the DProf Sport, as well as the wonderful taught sessions, there's also other sessions going off that people can opt into as well. And those are the administrators, the graduate school officers. And for the purposes of sport, it would be Isabella that would be dealing with any sort of applications for the DProf Sport. Are we able to go to, not in the next slide, yeah, thank you, Kevin, yeah. So with effect from October 20, the administrators on the slide work to schools, and the work, as I mentioned, from inquiry through to graduation. There's 2 mailboxes for the purposes of today, and this is an event sharing about the DProf Sport. Anyone wanting to apply for the DProf Sport would need to send their application through to the research admissions mailbox, and then it would be Isabella, who was mentioned on the slide before, that would deal with that. Next slide, please, Kevin. Thank you. So this is a highlight there, just to sort of again show people that are here listening about the diversity we've got across the university. And as mentioned, not only are you joining a really sort of big school, Carnegie School of Sport is actually the highest school for postgraduate research student enrolments within the university. You're also joining, there's a much wider community there of people studying on doctorates, built environment, and we have a very diverse range of schools there, going right down to the law school at the bottom. We do have other schools as well that have professional doctorates as well, so it is something that Leeds Beckett takes pride in, really, and we feel that that's kind of something that we do very well. Kevin's mentioned about the bridge, if you like, between practice and research, and Leeds Beckett feels very proud of that with the sort of suite of professional doctorates that they have. Next slide, please, Kevin. So just to get to the, do we have one for quick numbers, Kevin?
Oh, sorry, I don't know where that's gone, Joanne.
That's okay. I'll mention a few numbers anyway, because I think it's just useful. So each year the university starts between 120 to 130 new students per year. So that's all of those enrolling on some form of research degree as well. and we arrange approximately 80 viva voce examinations as well. So that's 80 research students a year going through that end point, which Owen mentioned will be, I think in year 4, year 5 there, when hopefully you're not sort of looking like the person on Owen's slide. And we graduate in around anywhere between 75 to 90 research students each year. And last academic year, we delivered 71 training sessions per academic year. So again, that's just giving you a flavour as well, that if you join a professional doctorate, you've got that really good sort of taught element, which is really important. And there's also other things to be, if you wish to join in as well. Next slide, please, Kevin. So I'll just mention a little bit about the application process as well. So for successful entry to the DProf, as it says on the slide, we would normally expect that our candidates have an undergraduate degree plus a postgraduate qualification. So hopefully an MA or MSc. Ideally, with it being a professional doctorate, we are looking at people having work experience, and ideally a minimum of 3 years. So when you're applying, it would be useful to also send a CV to highlight that experience as well. And we've got there the IELTS score, so that's for non-English speaking countries as well. The main thing for a research degree is with your application is to submit a proposal. And as it says on the slide there, we're looking at that being based upon a problem that Kevin's already touched on earlier, which is identified within your professional practice. What I would say as well is if there are any sort of possible applicants listening who feel you don't meet that criteria, I would encourage you to have a chat with Professor Kevin Till or, sort of any of us in the research, in the graduate school, myself or Isabella. Don't feel that that's excluded. The purpose of a professional doctorate is to kind of, because there's that supportive element at the beginning as well, there's also some flexibility as well, but you would need to discuss that as well. And we've got there the fees at the bottom, which Kevin mentioned prior to sort of starting the course. There was a big sort of examination and look at what the sector had. So, yeah. I'll be around as well for questions, and I believe I've also got Isabella and another colleague on the call as well. So if there's any questions from the administrative point of view or anything, we'll be here. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Joanna. So yeah, I think that's all the information that we'd like to present. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully that was useful. We will open up to questions through the chat. But if people have got specific questions, then feel free to reach me. If people have joined after the start, then maybe just note my email address down. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any specific questions. Especially, I guess, if there is individuals that may not meet certain criteria, they may not have a master's qualification, but I've got, for example, 15 years experience in sport or in certain roles, and that's where we can discuss opportunities to be a little bit more flexible with the entry requirements. So yeah, hopefully that was really useful. I'll stop sharing my screen, but if people would like to put any questions to myself, to Owen or Joanna in the graduate school into the chat box, and then I'd be very willing to answer those and facilitate those.
Yeah, so Stephen Lanigan has won there for, is it 7,000 or 3,000 fees from Ireland? So obviously, Stephen, for me, obviously I'm from Fermanagh, so with Northern Ireland, it's 3,500 for me, and that's what I'm paying, because of the nature of where I fit in terms of the fees. But I would say that Kevin and Joanne would be better able to answer that for students from the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take this if that's okay, Kevin. Owen, that's right. I mean, up till for the all of Ireland, the fees are confirmed as similar to UK. Okay, that's not changed.
Okay.
That's great, Isabella.
That's the UK.
James as well. James said, brilliant, thanks. James will be another from the Republic as well. So, and there's a couple from Ireland on this call who I would know as well. So. Just on the, I know Kevin, some people might be thinking just in terms of the experience and the journey, like I'm still relatively new in terms of my journey, but that's the beauty of, as we talked about earlier on, that's the beauty of the cohort because it's so diverse. Some people are way ahead in their own journey, even 6 months, 7 months in, and it's technically it's person-centered. The DocProf, is very much about your journey and your research. So different people will have different speeds in terms of what they achieve during their journey.
Yeah, so there's a question there from C. Dunn. Thank you for the question. So I guess as part of the proposal, or the application, sorry, the proposal is a maximum four-page proposal. So I guess within that, there's a number of criteria that we're looking for that I can't remember off the top of my head, but you'll see when you see the application form. But really it's to see, that there's a professional problem there, and that you've got an idea that you can undertake some literature review with some appropriate writing skills, and that you've got some idea around research design are the main things that we're looking for in relation to the proposal. But I guess the main thing to understand with the proposal is it's definitely not set in stone. So we've had a number of students that will submit a proposal, but then their research. The talk component is really to make sure that students' projects and research direction is the right direction, and that's what that's there for. So there's a lot of allows flexibility, and that is really what the talk program is. The aim of the talk program is to do. So from the first cohort, we probably had over half of the students that applied with a different project idea to probably what they've undertaken. So yeah, but happy to follow up on in terms of applications. I see a few questions came flying in there. So Alex says, are there any internal or external funding bodies you recommend applying for to aid that? Joanna, Isabella, is that something you might be able to answer?
Yeah, Isabella, I mean, first of all, for students that are sort of in the UK, there's the UK doctoral loans scheme, which the UK government has introduced. And if you Google that, doctoral loans and .gov.uk, that should come up as well. I think Isabella might probably put the link in the chat facility as well. And that kind of offers, it's around £25,000 in total over the duration of the course. So that would be evenly spaced per year as well. So, and the aim of that is to, however people want to use it. So, for example, people might want to apply for it and use it for the tuition fees. They might want to kind of sort of, use a bit of it. The aim of it was also to encourage people maybe who wanted to do part-time doctorates to maybe buy themselves out of work. It might be that some of it could be used to, reduce a day at work or something like that as well. So there's the doctoral loans. Isabella, would you like to, thank you for putting the link there, would you like to add anything else? Is there anything you're aware of that would help colleagues on the call?
No, hi all. Not at the moment for the specific of the professional doctorate. However, I think it depends really on also the diverse kind of scenario that we have from students. So you, Kevin, probably might know a little bit better because some of our students might already be working for some institution and probably are happy to contribute. But at this moment, I'm afraid I don't have any further info on this side.
Yeah.
So I guess our current students are funded by numerous ways. Some will fully self-fund themselves or have doctoral loans. Some may be lucky enough to be fully funded by their organisation, and then probably others are then it's sort of a match So I'd definitely recommend speaking to your organisation as well, if possible, to see if this is something that you could use CPD budget for, or something they can support, as it's obviously they should benefit from the work as well as you. So hopefully that helps. I will move on because there's been quite a few questions coming now. So Connor, thank you, Connor. How many times a year would you be expected to be in Leeds in the first year? Good question, Connor. So initially we were aiming to be have 4 3-day blocks in Leeds for the talk component. As I mentioned, with COVID, that's changed. We're still not fully sure what is the best model. We're still working around that. So it would probably be a minimum of 2, potentially 3 visits rather than the 4, with then some other online delivery. And then I guess I'll follow up with another question. I think that Eric asked in relation to that. I'm not sure where it's gone, but okay. So around overseas students. So we have actually, because of the new building and the new technology that we've got, we've been able to this year, when we did have the face-to-face back in October, we were able to deliver simultaneously online and in the classroom. So we had 3 students, one in Canada, one in Dubai and one in London, that didn't attend the face-to-face delivery, didn't attend Leeds, but they were part of the sessions. So that is definitely something we'd be able to facilitate. I think that is probably worth a chat to discuss that further, but it's definitely with the technology that we've got available now, that we would be in a better position to do that. We'd still encourage people to visit Leeds, but understand again where you're based, etc. That may not be possible. So hopefully that helps. Barry's asked, is the product output along with a thesis? So yes, Barry, thank you for the question. Yes, we see that it needs to still have a thesis element of submission, and what that thesis looks like in the length depends on the size of the product. So there's something that would be discussed over the amount of time, but we're very keen that it's submission of both, and not just writing a thesis that we know sometimes potentially just sits on the shelf and doesn't get read as much. So yeah, that's something we're very keen to develop. David, thank you for the question. How defined does the problem you are trying to solve need to be at the outset? Yeah, I think I alluded to that a little bit. I guess it doesn't need to be clearly defined, because we know that again there's that flexibility for that problem to change. I guess what you need to try and do in the application is just evidence some of your academic skills in terms of being able to develop a research question, be able to write academically with some references and have some research methods design. But we're very much aware that those problems and questions will change over time. So hopefully that helps, but feel free to follow up again for more information. So Elliot has asked, how common is it for people to manage their programme of study alongside a full-time job? Presumably their studies integrate as part of professional practice, or are most students working part-time? Thank you, Elliot. As far as I'm aware, most students are full-time employees. I think, as far as I'm aware, probably 22 out of the 23 students, as far as I know, have a full-time job. Our approach to this is very much around trying to work efficiently, so your doctoral work and your job sort of become the same thing, if that makes sense. Because the work that you're doing for the DProf is really work that you're sort of doing towards your organisation and your role, while acknowledging it's never going to be as clean cut as that. There's always going to be some work that you need to do for the prof doc that won't fully sit into your role. But yeah, that's our philosophy. Is it needs to be worked as sort of efficient as possible, because we know that especially experienced practitioners with families, other commitments, it is hard. So that efficiency is really a skill I think that every student needs to develop, and probably one that students like Owen are continuing to develop all the time as well. So
and
yes.
just on that, Elliot, the more you can discuss this with your employer, what you're thinking, then the more they'll be aware of the DocProf and how it's going to be mutually beneficial to you and potentially them as well, because that balance between work and study and family life is something that the DocProf definitely encourages. But again, if your work and your study isn't related, which has happened to me in the previous role that I was in, it's very, very difficult. So I would definitely encourage you to speak to your employer, try to get your research and your work kind of aligned as best you can, because that'll definitely help you on your journey.
Thanks, Owen. Peter, hi Peter, hope you're well. He asked a question around equipment and funding of equipment. That's an interesting one, Peter. Paul, I haven't got. I guess the answer to the question would be we would try and support that as much as possible. Obviously, you're aware that there's a range of equipment that's available within the school, but again, you're probably also aware that equipment is in high demand at times. So as a DProf student, there would be opportunity for either yourself or your supervisory team to, I guess, submit applications for equipment and funding if that is needed. So I can't guarantee that it's a yes, but I think it's definitely something that we'd be keen to try and support as much as possible. But I guess it's one of those that sometimes budgets change on a year-to-year basis from the school as they do in other environments. So, but yeah, again, happy to discuss further if needed. So Victor's asked a question around international student fees. Is specific to the graduate school or the DProf program. So for the international fees that were presented were for the DProf program. International fees for different research programs do differ. I know that actually the international fees for the DProf program are probably a lot cheaper than they are for, say, the PhD program, or for some PhD programs. I don't know if Joanna or Isabella want to follow up on anything else there.
Yeah, I think as Kevin's as you mentioned as well, Kevin, the last year as well and how the learnings had to be blended has made of things like professional doctorates as well much more accessible for the international market as well. So one of the advantages for this would be that you would also be able to remain in your own country. But I would agree with what you say, Kevin. I think the fees are, the fees for a professional doctorate are normally lower than for a traditional PhD. And there's also the added sort of extra for the DProf of the fact that you can probably remain and do it at a distance, so you're not having to come to the UK and sort of spend money on research, on rents, those kind of things, yeah. But we have probably a higher fee for PhDs, yeah, and different fees for other professional doctorates as well, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. So in terms of your other question, Victor, so the talk component, how far apart are the modules spaced? So I guess the modules run simultaneously, so all three units run at the same time. In terms of the delivery, because we've gone more blended, the blocks are normally if non-COVID, it would be at least 3 months apart, but there would be then online follow-up in relation to that. So probably more contact time or regular contact time than maybe what Owen's cohort had initially. And then the IELTS, yes, I believe that international students, even with a UK Masters, need a required an IELTS as well.
Yes, I was just going to add a bit of clarity for that, Kevin, as well, because that question's not on screen. If the Masters was from a UK institution, then obviously there's that would normally sort of waive the IELTS requirement as well. So obviously if it was a Masters though from an overseas institution, then that would mean that they would need to do an IELTS. Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. And I think that's all the questions that have been posed. If I've missed any, then someone is that Joanne? So I've missed any apologies, but I think I've got them all. So again, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I hope that was useful, and you gathered some information about what we're about as a school, what our philosophy is towards research, and then obviously what the professional doctorate program is about. So yeah, as I said, happy to follow up with individuals for further information. And lastly, thank you to Owen for his time this afternoon and sharing his journey, and for Joanna and Isabella and Victoria from the graduate school. So thank you everyone, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from some of you in the not too distant future. Okay.